So, first thing to do today is to move some steel that I had in storage to the boat itself. I have some materials here laying at an organization I'm a part of called Copenhagen Suborbitals, where we build amateur rockets, and they have a little bit of outdoor space and some gummy geld, a rubber goat as it's called, a bulldozer that I'm allowed to borrow to move stuff around. So here I have some square tubing that I got for free and some other steel plating. And you can also see what I've been moving last weekend with the bulldozer. It's part of the steering house of my boat, the roof and the sides that I've been cutting off, and I'm donating that steel to Copenhagen Suborbitals as well. It's a lot of scrap metal. So what I also have here is a working pontoon that I made over the winter. It's actually the same steel that I'm using to rebuild my boat out of. It was an old pontoon that I bought, and I started to cut it up for the steel. So it's this red steel is the same that I'm now rebuilding the bow out of, and it's the same what the pontoon is made out of. So I've finished what was remaining of the pontoon, and I put all these small little welding dots on top so you don't slip. I made some bollards for it and a crane and so it's pretty much a finished product, and my plan was to have it laying next to my houseboat while I'm working on it, so it will be easier to do the work on the outside. But sadly I don't really have the permission at the moment to have it in the water from the landlord. So it's called Hippo because it's quite a big, heavy beast. So I'm actually now in the process of trying to sell it because I don't have any place for it to store. So if you know anybody in Copenhagen that's interested, please let me know. But it's brand new, hasn't been in the water yet. It also has manholes going in. I think you still need to fill it with ballast when it is into the water. I think right now, under its own weight, it will have a draft of like 15 centimeters. Yeah. So that's what I did last winter when I couldn't really do any work on the boat. It also has a small crane, so you can lift small stuff out of the water on the far side. Yeah. So what I still have laying here for my boat is one more sidewall. So this is basically the state all the steel was in. I had to cut off all the old stringers in the sides, and then I can turn it into usable steel. So actually I spent a lot of time cleaning up all these plates before I can use them on my boat. And there's been a lot of work and a lot of grinding discs. But it was cheap metal. I could buy it in the entire pontoon. It was like twice this long with all this steel on it for scrap value. And it's actually marine grade steel. It's 6mm thick with the ship's primer on it. So it's really high quality stuff. Almost too good to build the bow section out of. But yeah, I got it cheap, so it's okay. So I have this section left here, and then I have a bunch of old high pressure bottles that I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do with. I've been using some of them. I've been cutting them in quarters, and then you get a nice round fillet. If you have like for the skylight that I made, or the hatch in the front of the deck, I have like a quarter of this welded onto it. And I plan to use this the same for the steering house that's going to go on top of the roof. The front of that house is also going to have like nice round corners. And the back cabin on the boat where the bedroom is going to be is also going to have round corners. And maybe one of them I will turn into a compressed air tank in the bottom of the boat. And then I have some left. But they're always nice to have there, I think. Yeah, 12mm thick. Rather heavy duty. So yes, I will see if the bulldozer wants to start, and then I will drive to my boat and unload it and get actually some work done. Now I hope she will start again. She has a lot of issues with sucking in false air. I really need to spend some time looking at that. But let's see. She wants to start. good. And of course, have to make sure to lock the gate after you leave. Oops. This is one of the rockets that we're testing in 2014. Sadly, it caught fire during a static test, and then the engine blew itself up. But it's still a nice gate watcher. Maybe I will do another video on Copenhagen suborbitals at some point. It's actually the reason I came to Denmark in the first place, to do my bachelor assignment, where I made an electro-hydraulic guidance system for one of their rockets. So I made a gimbal system that can steer a rocket engine underneath one of their rockets that's inside. But I'll maybe talk about it another time. But for now, I'm just going to close the gate and go to my boat. Alright, we made it back to the boat. I have my boat laying next to an old Dutch mud dragger or dredger. It's called Ilutron, but originally it was called Storhavn. It's a barge that used to have a big crane in the front with a spoon. They could dredge out harbors in Norway. And Ilutron, being an art collective, they bought it around 10 years ago, and it's a workshop where you can build all kinds of stuff. Right over there we have two really big flamethrowers I have been working on as well. They shoot flames like 10 meters tall on propane. They're really big. Yeah, so it's an old barge, and downstairs there's a lot of space. There's a metal workshop and a big performance room for doing music release parties and dance events and all kinds of stuff. And then there's some smaller cabins on top where we have artists in residency if they want to do a project. And it's easy to recognize for me because I made that sculpture over there. I made a 1-to-1 replica of Sputnik. Me being quite a space geek, I mean, I came to Denmark to build rockets. So I found this aluminium sphere in the trash, and then I made the right antenna. So it's exactly 1-to-1 to Sputnik. Yeah, so this is my workshop. So it's a community workshop where you pay rent if you want to do stuff, and you have a membership fee. And I of course pay a little bit more because I have my boat laying right here. So yeah, I think I will see if I can unload this steel. I find a nice place for it, and then do some welding. So I just welded in some more stringers to reinforce the front wall. It was a bit wobbly still. This is only 4mm, and down here it's 6. So now that stringer is installed. I could cut off this pole. There was a pole standing here before, until down there, and that was part of the strong back that I made together with the front of the steering house. So if you can see, when I started building up the frame, I've been welding on small pieces to attach to the ribs. That's to give the frame some initial strength before the plates were installed. But as the seams on top are not fully welded yet, and the frame is not super rigid, so this beam is temporarily gonna stay a bit longer. And I connected it to the front with a scrap piece, and now this is load bearing. So that's nice to get that pole out of the way. Yeah, so I welded those, and I finished welded those as well. Made the seams below, and now I just put on a small little hatch that looks a bit like a unicorn, I think. It's a small latch that I made for locking this in place, and actually I shouldn't have fully welded it on because I want to maybe have this galvanized, but I can always cut it off again. So what I want to make now is 2 steel pieces that go from here up and then curve out like that, because it's gonna be 2 supports for the small floor, like 1 by 1 meter that's gonna be here, and I will also like make a nice edge for the side of this this room going down, and then I will weld a small plate on top. So right now I'm gonna make 2 curved pieces that will weld on there, and I think by the time I've done that and tack welded in place, it's probably gonna be time for me to go home again. But that's what I will try to do now. So after going through my scrap pile, I found a piece that I originally, I think, cut 2 squares out of to make the manhole covers for my work pontoon. It had like square manholes on top, so actually it was a bit of an odd size plate. I think that's turned out pretty okay. I made a curve here. So these are the 2 hooks that are gonna be welded on. And I think it's fun when you have scraps and you kind of have to figure out a shape from there. I mean, it's second-hand steel, so it's good enough for me. And now I just have to pattern that on the other side and make an identical copy, and then clean this up with the grinder and weld it on. Ah yeah, and I cut this out with my wonderfully cheap Chinese plasma cutter that I bought last winter. I was thinking about turn it off, about buying one of these Hypertherm 45 XP plasma cutters. They're super nice, but also rather expensive. I think here in Denmark or even in the Netherlands I would pay like pretty much half the amount of what I paid for my boat to begin with. So that's a bit too much money for me. So I ended up buying this from a shop in Denmark, and it was a show model that had been used like once or twice. And it's actually a machine that was intended for a plasma table, for CNC plasma tables. It had some weird features. But I made a small cart for it and replaced the hose with a slightly higher quality Chinese one. Put an old fire hose around it to protect it better. And it works great. It can go up to 100 amps on 3-phase power. So the 360 volt 16 amps. And it the thickest I've managed to cut is 30 millimeters in steel. So that's a bit more than 1 inch. Yeah, a bit more than 1 inch. So it's more than powerful enough. I mean, this is only 6 millimeter I'm cutting, so it worked great. So almost finished cleaning all the cutting edges, and the way I normally do that is that I use, I think it's called Cubitron Type 2 abrasive discs. They're really good for heavy duty work. I've cut down, when I was removing the old bulwarks, I had to grind down the old seam all the way around the boat and also the side, and I think in total I only used like 8 of them, and they are quite expensive. I can't get them in Denmark without having like a company CVR number thing, so actually I import them from the Netherlands. I take them in my hand luggage into the airplane, and yeah, I think they cost around 20 euros each. It's quite a lot, but they work really well. So then I clean it up with that, and the way to make it smooth, I use like a standard 40 grit lamelle disc, or how do you call it, sandpaper disc, and then it's nice and smooth. So I will just finish this last seam, and then I will tack weld them in place and see how it looks. So I went ahead and welded it in place. Just a second. Yeah, I think the seaplane is joining us in a little bit. Where is it? There's a seaplane departing from the Little Mermaid, close to it, and I think it flies every day a few times to Aalborg, which is on Jylland, also in Denmark. So yeah, I went ahead and finished welded it in place. So we get, let me get out of the sun. Yeah, you get both frames welded in place. I had to fill in some gaps from the original hatch that used to be here, so I filled it in with some angle iron. I mean, there's gonna be a wooden floor on top and insulation and wood against it, so you will not see it. It's also like the way I made this is that the hatch plate is flat, and then this one butts up against it, and so this one is welded up on the inside of that one. So that's why it looks, there's 2 weld seams. And because of the hatch only goes down here, there's a small gap, but I don't think I'm gonna bother. It's gonna be on the inside, so you can see that this one is laying flat against that plate, which is of the hatch. But yeah, I welded some angle irons on it, so in the future, or when we get to the interior part, I can put on some wooden beams to make the floor bigger, because I think, yeah, the current hydraulic pump for the steering wheel is like 20 centimeter deep, so I think the floor needs to go roughly onto here and maybe a bit wider, and then some small steps going down here so it'll be easy to climb on. Yeah. So there's the finished floor support for the steering house, and I think next up, probably not today, but next up is to make some sketches for the steering house and figure out what materials I need for it, and if I have enough, and maybe start building that one, or at least, yeah, start building it, and then I can finish it during the winter when it's gonna be too rainy and too windy to do stuff out here. But maybe I can build it inside a workshop. But this came out pretty okay. It's yeah, it's of course a bit wobbly still, but once the wood is on top, it will be a lot stiffer. But the nice thing is, now this is installed, I can actually try out the new steering position. So yeah, I think the floor can be a bit taller, and I plan to make it like 1 meter tall steering house on top, so it will be more than enough visibility for me. But maybe my girlfriend might need a small step. She's a little bit shorter than I am, but it's I'm happy with it. So thank you so much for watching. I think I'm gonna end this video here. I'm gonna clean up and go home. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I got some very nice replies on the first video, which is, it's nice to see. I don't really know what I'm doing, both with video editing and boat building. I mean, It's the first boat that I own. I don't know that much about it, but I think we will figure it out. See you in the next video.